Welcome to the Inside Carolina Postgame podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Ashley. That's Sherrell McMillan joining me. We're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt, johnnytshirt.com. Of course, the place to be on Franklin Street to get your Carolina gear, and the place online to get your gear. If you can't make it to Chapel Hill, Johnny T-Shirt's got everything you need, all sports, all gear, shirts, tees, sweatshirts, whatever, hats. Spring's coming up. Hit them up. Get your Johnny T-Shirt swag. Premium Carolina, Inside Carolina subscribers get 10% off their everyday order. With the Postgame podcast and with Sherrell McMillan and me, Tommy Ashley, we're going to discuss a game that went down in Death Valley, Clemson. Sherrell, Carolina 79-77. I'll let you start while I try to collect the thoughts on this one.
Yeah, it was a game that North Carolina severely needed. We all understand that after losing to Duke, pretty much no margin for error with some of these games. Going into it, they thought it was going to be a Q1, and Clemson lost on Saturday, so it became a Q2 game. So, really more pressure to not lose it versus to win a Q1 almost. And it started off a little rough. They had another one of those sleepy starts that have plagued this team really over the last two seasons. I believe it was 19-8 at one point, or 18-9, something like that. Fought their way back, and we're up 5 at halftime. So we've been hard on this team. Everybody, the fans, the media, the coaches, pretty much everyone has been hard on this team. So I do think we have to give them a little bit of praise, despite how it looked and despite how they got there. They got what they needed to get, which was a win on the road in the ACC. And the consensus was among people from ESPN and who do bracketology and who study this stuff, that they had to get, a couple of quality wins on the road, at home. And I think Clemson on the road is a pretty quality win, albeit they were without Hunter Tyson, who's a very important player for them. But they still found a way to win. And I think that's the most important thing. It's one of the things with this team that we wondered about. Can they take a punch, get down, and get back up? And they did it in this game a couple of times. A lot of it was in spite of themselves, as we've talked about recently. It felt a lot like Louisville last week, honestly, to me, just in the game flow and how things turned out. But you can't apologize for winning. You especially can't apologize for winning on the road in the ACC, about 72 hours after you were embarrassed, destroyed, annihilated on national TV against your arch rivals. So you have to give them props for bouncing back.
Indeed, you do. A lot to break down. Greg Barnes and Gregory Hall are on site there at Clemson, and they'll give you all the insight from Clemson. But, Sherrell, the one thing I noticed, and you mentioned the Louisville game, and I thought about that. And, the Louisville game had a lot to do with the officiating, but players were getting chippy. Players were getting chippy in this one, but I never thought it really got out of hand like it did in the Louisville game. But one person, and I want to get your take here, I was not expecting to be doing this post-game podcast. So props to Ralph for stepping up in absence of others. Bacot's getting tired of it. I said that 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he keeps progressing, getting more and more tired of it. And tonight, it almost cost his team. As a coach, what do you say to a guy that's clearly getting beat to death, clearly playing his butt off? I mean, he had a great game tonight. How does Hubert Davis sort of rein that in from the big man? That's so very important.
The message has to be control what you can control, and you can't control what the officials are going to call. Sometimes, I thought the officiating tonight was worse than Louisville, honestly, for both teams. Like, the last foul on PJ Hall with like 58 seconds left was atrocious. It was awful. So I don't want people to think I'm being biased towards Carolina here, but on both sides, the officiating was just bad, just really rough. But I think that's the message to Armando, because he knows how important he is to the team. Hubert Davis knows how important he is to the team. And so he has to act like it. And I know it's frustrating for him to constantly get, beat on and hit and fouled with no calls, but he can't react the way he did tonight. And I think that's the message that the coaching staff will have to give him, is control what you can control, and let me, Hubert Davis, Sean May, Brad Frederick, Jeff Lebo, let us handle the referees, because he is starting to, you can start seeing it every few possessions. It seems like he's kind of saying something to the referee or looking at him, and that doesn't help, especially as Carolina goes down the stretch with how important he is. So that's the message that I think Hubert Davis will give to him.
Yeah, and that's across the board. And it's also the reason why I don't really blame officials a lot for games. And people always say, well, it's ridiculous or whatever. But it's to your point, you can control what you can control. And you can't control what you're going to call or what they're going to call, but you have to play through it. And Bacot, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Gregory and Greg are going to write, but had, that 3 went in, I think they're writing that Armando Bacot's, fourth foul probably cost North Carolina a chance at the NCAA tournament. We're at that time of the season now where one possession, one foul, one technical, one lapse in judgment for 3 or 4 seconds could be the difference between North Carolina playing in March in the big tournament or North Carolina playing in March in the National Invitational Tournament. So, you had to control what you can control. And some of the talking to the officials, even if they are hyped up and they're upset, they got to ring that in a little bit.
Yeah. And look, I'm not saying that the officials are any good. They're clearly not, but you can't talk to them. And especially those couple of guys. You saw that against one of them was at Virginia Duke last night. You saw that. I mean, it's just don't talk, just play. Hubert Davis will have to get that through to Bacot. But look, you can't deny Bacot's game. 8 for 10, 24 and 10. The 5 fouls is not good. 32 minutes. Sherrell, he showed some athleticism tonight and made some plays through contact that he hasn't really done a lot. What'd you think about him? And then also Manic there underneath, because that's it for Carolina inside. And I thought those two played well enough. Bacot was obviously great again. Just come in on the bigs down there. Manic, 37 minutes tonight. Played 35 against Duke.
He looked like his legs were a little gone, a little worn. And I feel for the guy because he's trying really hard defensively, and there are some things that he can't overcome athletically, and just some limitations that he has, and they're just going to be there. But he is trying hard. He's trying to be in position. He's trying to battle down there. He's not soft. I know that's something that's been bandied about with this UNC team, but that is not Brady Manic at all. What I do like about him is even though his shots aren't falling, you saw even on the game-winning basket, you saw him cut to the basket several times. You saw him making nice entries from the high post. You saw him flare out to set screens. He's just doing whatever he can to impact the game. I think that was really important for UNC. And then Bacot, I mean, he has the tools, especially against defenders who are smaller than him. But I think sometimes he just doesn't get the ball enough. There was a stretch there after he came back in the game. I want to say the 5-minute mark is when he came back in. He said for about 5 or 6 minutes, and he came in, and I believe his next offensive touch or his next shot was that 3-pointer attempt, towards the end of the game. He had a nice assist to Manic, but besides that, those are the only real, scoring opportunities I recall him having. So there are times where they forget about him, or they can't get it to him, or teams try to take him away. And then that's what North Carolina has to counter. And I think they did enough of it tonight with other players who stepped up.
Let's talk about Love and Davis in the backcourt. Caleb Love, I was tweeting this out too before you said, let's do this post game. Man, that guy is maddening. I mean, he just does stuff. He does stuff that is like, what in the world? And you make it seems like he's never played basketball before, and then he hits a huge shot. I mean, and RJ Davis, scrappy, undersized, makes some plays, has some good assists, 16 and 6 for RJ Davis. I mean, the shooting is not going to shoot the lights out at all, but they did enough for Carolina tonight, I thought.
RJ, that was one of his better games at Carolina. 16 points, 6 assists, 0 turnovers in the amount of minutes he played on the road in the ACC. And what I liked about what he did was he wasn't always driving to score. And I think that's something in the past that's been, he's hardwired to score. He's a scorer naturally. But I think he is learning kind of when to do that and when not. That's the maturation you want to see in a point guard or a lead guard. So again, great game for him. And then Caleb, it is tough because he's not played well recently, and I think he knows it. And I think sometimes he's hard on himself, just like the announcers and Hubert Davis talked about Brady Manic being hard on himself. But Joey quoted Ted Lasso, the whole goldfish thing. And it's true, man. I mean, he had some really tough stretches there where he was turning it over. He took some forced pull-up jumpers that didn't go in. But those forced pull-up jumpers that didn't go in, I guess, got him in rhythm. And when it counted, he made the, probably maybe the biggest shot of the game. And then UNC cleared it out for him to drive, and he made a great decision to pass to Manic. So it's it's not much to say. It's like, it's great that he can put the previous 38 minutes behind him, but you would like to see more of that last minute, the previous 38, 39 minutes.
Yeah, it's like put the previous 38 behind you forever, and play like that. And look, he's obviously important to this team. Hubert Davis clearly believes he's very important to this team. Him, Davis, and Bacot and Manic all at 37 minutes. And the last couple guys, and we'll get out of here. Carolina, of course, wins 79-77 at Clemson, which is tough on a road win for the conference. Leaky Black, man, his mother was very active. So was Leaky on the court. I thought that was hilarious. Great thread on Inside Carolina message boards. But Leaky again, I mean, he's figuring out what he needs to do. He's played well. The plus minus won't show it, but he hit a big shot too there late. He had some rebounds late. Just comment on how he's grown really in this last month.
Yeah, shout out to Miss Carla. You won the game, or you helped win the game for UNC. At times, I think you were playing defense harder than anyone else on the court. So if you see this, shout out to you. Leaky, man, he's progressed, and I think a lot of it has to do with him having a defined role. And people don't like to hear that sometimes, but I think he knows exactly what his head coach wants from him for, really the first time in his career. I think everybody read the stuff with Jackie Manuel last week and how that's helped him, with anxiety and calming himself. But more than that, he's moving without the ball. The jumpers or the shots that he takes, most of them are either wide open or within kind of something that you can see is a muscle memory deal where he's repped that, 500, 1,000 times. You don't see many shots that look like something that he's never done before. So either wide open or something he's repped a lot. And then, the guys playing heavy minutes and taking on usually the best offensive player on the perimeter from the other team. Sometimes, like Banchero, the best post player or the best, four from the other team. Tonight, I don't remember the guy's name, but he was torching Carolina in the first half. I'll have to go look it up. I think he had a couple threes. Let me find it. Live radio, everybody. Was it number 12, Hemingway? Hemingway was kind of going off there in the first half. He had a couple threes back to back. They switched Leaky on him, and I don't think we heard anything from him the rest of the game. So people gave Hubert Davis a little flack at the beginning of the season when he talked about, how Leaky could be ACC Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think he's proven that he can be a solid defender against, a bunch of different type of players, from 6'10" Banchero to someone like Hemingway, to the Ellis kid from Louisville. So he's playing well. And honestly, you trust him as much as anyone on the roster right now when it gets to crunch time, right? Because he's a good free throw shooter too.
I was watching a few times, and I was like, he's wide open in the corner. And something I never thought I'd say, and credit to him for doing it, is like, kick it to Leaky for open three. I mean, he's made some shots. This Carolina team, where are they right now, Sherrell? Florida State comes to the Smith Center Saturday at 2:00. Then, they've got a couple games to follow in the week. For sure, if they'd lost this game, the tournament would have been gone, except for a miracle, I think. But where's Hubert Davis got them right now?
I mean, they won 5 of their last 6. It's the same thing with this team. They won 5 of their last 6, but the one loss was so bad that it clouds everything. Not saying it, and I'm saying people are wrong for making it cloud everything, but that's where they are. They won 5 of their last 6. They won 2 in a row on the road, both tightly contested games earlier this season that we really didn't think they had a shot of winning on the road in a close game. That doesn't happen. Really, it hadn't happened at all before Louisville, as far as a real close game down. It comes down to the under 4 timeout, and they're 2-0. So they're showing some mettle. They're showing some toughness, I think, which has been wanted. They showed some emotion, which I think has been wanted by the fan base, even though one time they got a tech for it, which was, again, completely ridiculous. But I think they're showing signs, but it's hard to buy into them because they'll have a 5 out of 6 streak, but the one loss is Duke, or the one loss is Kentucky, or it's back to Miami and to Wake Forest, or it's Tennessee, and they look so bad in those games that it's hard to really trust them. So I think that's where they're at. I feel like they're an NCAA tournament team. We talked about the rest of the season, they needed to find 2 road wins. They've got one of them. So they need to find one more road win and protect their home court. And I think they'll be fine for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I also think this is a big, big win. I felt like watching Hubert Davis, and as active as he was, he knew how important getting this one was.
For sure. I think that was the most animated we've seen him. At least that the cameras have caught. For those of us who watch mostly at home, that's the most animated that he's been shown on camera. So, I mean, look at the schedule. Home against Florida State, home against Pittsburgh, at Virginia Tech, home against Louisville, at NC State, home against Syracuse, at Duke. So find a road win between Virginia Tech, NC State. I'm going to say the Duke road win isn't realistic. So find a way to either win at NC State or at Virginia Tech and protect your home court, and you should be fine.
Yep, I agree. Carolina wins at Clemson 79-77. I think 17-7 on the season, 9-4 in the conference. They still in it. They still got a chance, and
they're a game back of first place.
I know. I'm confused about is that real life? I mean, the ACC, we can debate that, but the bottom line is, no matter what the conference is, there's still a game out of first place, behind everybody's darlings, Duke and Virginia. Man, wow. That's crazy how that game turns out. Carolina kills Virginia. Duke kills Carolina. Virginia beats Duke. Makes no sense.
I told you my personal philosophy with the ACC, right? Assume UVA is going to win until they don't. So now that they're charging, they're only 2 games back. I mean, it's going to be a wild last few weeks, man, because all the teams have shown flaws and all the teams are beatable. So who knows what's going to happen? I mean, we could look up in 2.5 weeks and Notre Dame could have won the regular season, or Miami could have, or Duke could have, found a way. North Carolina, stranger things have happened. North Carolina could still win the ACC, as crazy as that sounds. I don't expect it to happen, but it's possible.
Well, anything is possible. The ACC basketball season is on its head. Sherrell McMillan, I'm Tommy Ashley. It's been the Inside Carolina Postgame Podcast. Rate us, review us, subscribe, all that good stuff. We did a postgame pod. Some people said we should be able to get one done if we can do others. So I hope folks enjoyed listening. Sherrell, thank you.